Hi, my name is Kelvin Newman and welcome to the Brighton SEO podcast, where we share talks from one of the world's most popular search marketing conferences. The event started out as a few people meeting in an upstairs room of a pub and is now attended by over 3,000 people from all over the world. This episode is a recording of one of the speakers at a recent event.
We have our third and final speaker of the session, and I'm actually quite honored to welcome her to the stage because she's somebody that I've desperately begged to apply to speak at Brighton SEO for quite some time. It's Cindy Krum. She is the CEO and founder of Mobile Moxie. Cindy is actually, I would say, the guru when it comes to mobile. She is up next with her talk, Understanding the Impact of Mobile First Indexing. Cindy.
Okay, so thanks for the awesome introduction. Like she said, my name is Cindy Krum, and I'm the CEO of Mobile Moxie, and I renamed my speech. Today, it's going to be the truth about mobile first indexing, because I think there's a lot of misinformation going on. So the first thing that you have to know is that mobile first indexing is supposed to be launching in 2018. Maybe, probably, we hope so. There have been a couple announcements where this has been a bit confusing coming out of Google, but it is something that they're actively working on and trying to get live. Now, if you take away only one thing from this presentation, what I need you to remember is that mobile-first indexing is different from mobile-first design. I see a lot of SEOs talking about mobile-first indexing as if mobile-first design gets you all the way there or ensures that you're going to be just fine with mobile-first indexing. And I think that that misses the point. Mobile-first design is great. It's fantastic. You should do it. It's not the beginning and end of mobile first indexing. There's just more to it. So I think to clarify more, we'll go through what these words mean and then put them all together. So what is mobile? If you look at what Google's talking about as mobile, it's changing and evolving, and there are more and more things being added to it. Mobile now includes VR. You can have mobile connectivity on your refrigerator, which is definitely not mobile. All these different things that are part of the Internet of Things are kind of being lumped in as mobile. So I would encourage you to take that as a sign that mobile, in the context of mobile first indexing, might not mean mobile device like a handset, but might mean mobile as more of like a portable, movable, liftable kind of content. So portable, really. First, what does first mean? Well, it doesn't mean only. So it's a prioritization. We're going to look at this first, okay? And then indexing. This is where the real mix-up comes in. Indexing is about chronicling or ordering information in a way that makes it findable. There were indexes before there was Google. There were things like yellow pages and white pages and the table of contents in a book. This is just a list of what is included and how is it ordered. It might be alphabetical. It might be numerically, like the Dewey Decimal System in a library. That was an index. Okay? So when we put it all together, what we get is portable, prioritized ordering and inclusion of information, okay? And that's what I think mobile-first indexing is really about, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you about and kind of probably, hopefully, proving to you today. So, awesome, yay. Portable, prioritized ordering and inclusion. Now, set that aside. I'm going to show you this graph. This was shared with me by my colleague Emily Grossman, who you may have seen talking earlier today. And it's just a basic technology S-curve. And what we see at the bottom is that we have some kind of new innovation, and the adoption is kind of low. The performance on this technology is kind of low. And then over time, more and more people start adopting it. The technology improves. And then finally, we hit maturity. Everyone's got one. They don't need a new one. It's done, right? But there are little changes that happen in the interim that get us there, system improvements. And a lot of the time, especially in mobile, there's all this focus on system improvement, either OS improvements, better camera, more memory. And people think that's where the innovation is really happening, but it's not. These component improvements are nice, but they might be distracting you from what's really going on, which is other technology is being developed in the background and sneaking up on you. And if you're not an early adopter, you're missing the incumbent technology because you're waiting for it to gain traction, right? You're in the middle portion of the S-curve, but if you're looking for really how to get an edge, you've got to be understanding and paying attention to what's going on in the background. So what is going on in the background? First off, voice-first devices are huge and growing quite rapidly, right? We're about to hit this inflection point where there are more and more devices that assume that you're going to control them with a voice, not with a keyboard, not with a mouse. Or you might be controlling them with your phone, but they don't have necessarily a keyboard or a mouse. In 2017, there was this huge jump, okay? So we're on that inflection point. Next thing is chatbots. Now, when you first think of a chatbot, you're like, that's dumb, my company can't use it. Try to separate the concept of a chatbot from what the technology is that powers it. Chatbots are really, really cool and can enable things directly from the cloud without a screen, without a keyboard, without even a browser. This is another important inflection point because chatbots are growing faster than apps. So if you're like a SEO who's always been on the web and you're like, man, apps just kind of came out of nowhere and now they're displacing me, they're taking my customers, chatbots are going to do that even faster. So don't lose sight of chatbots. Excuse me. All of these things come together, and Google is intentionally linking them together through things like casting technology, and they're embedding the ability to interact with their other kinds of connected devices right on their websites, right in YouTube. You can play it, you can cast it. You can do stuff in Cardboard. You can now send stuff from a SERP directly to your Google Home. They're wanting you to engage with the Internet of Things through all of the technology that they've been focusing on. Casticity's Chromecast. This is directly in the setup of a new Pixel phone. It encourages you to connect all of your home devices from the get-go. It's also pulling in all of the apps that you've got on your phone to understand what kind of casting interaction you might want. Do you want to cast with Hulu? Do you want to cast from HBO Go? It's trying to really make this a very seamless experience. And if you're set up, if your app or your website is set up to interact like this, Google wants to rank you at the top because they want to show off all the cool connectivity stuff that they've been doing. So here's the thesis. Google talks about mobile first, offline first, AI first, and voice first. If you paid attention at Google I/O this year, everyone was claiming to be first. Why? It's all the same thing. It's all putting it up in the cloud. It's all making it portable, not in a mobile device way, but in the cloud way so that they can represent your data on any device they want. When it lives in the cloud, it works, and Google can create a presentation layer or use your presentation layer to get people a really great, predictable experience without your development team having to build for every kind of potential device that a user might want to access your content on. Why does that matter? Crawling's hard. The cross-benefit analysis for crawling your website content has flipped. It used to be the best way for them to get your content was to crawl the web sporadically looking for stuff, right? Crawl like a blind bot, hoping that it would find something. But if Google thinks that its job is to crawl and index the world's information, it's getting harder and harder because we're creating more and more data. We're creating data at an increasing rate. 90% of the world's data was created in the past 2 years. That's because we're creating so much at such a rapid-fire pace. When everyone lived in books at the library, we weren't creating trackable data. Now we all have Fitbits on. We all carry at least one phone, maybe a tablet and a computer that's connected and tracking you, right? There's lots more that Google wants to crawl, and they want to crawl all the data, not just the data that people can see in a browser. They want to know your Fitbit stuff if you give them permission. They want to know the temperature of your house. Why? We don't know. But they want to know, right? They want all that data. So I believe that with mobile-first indexing, we're moving into a world where URLs aren't the end-all, be-all. Crawling isn't the only way to get in the index, and it might not even be the best way to get in the index. Because what it seems like is Google seems to be giving preference to stuff that is hosted really well or hosted with them, stuff that's sent to them in a feed or XML, stuff that's marked up with JSON LD, which is kind of API, stuff that's set up as a plugin or a PWA, and then any other API. They really are into APIs because APIs do what? They make data portable. They make your stuff work with other people's stuff. So the other benefit to putting everything in the cloud is it works better with big data. Big data relies on parallel processing that happens in the cloud, so you can crunch all of the data that's coming in and make automated decisions that a local computer or your computer alone wouldn't be able to do. You need the power of the cloud. And things like voice search from Hummingbird, if we move all of our databases and information directly into a cloud hosting situation, Google doesn't even necessarily have to crawl like all the translated versions of your content because they have the translation API. They're just looking for keywords. So they can take one language version and know which languages you have and then translate it through their API so they don't have to crawl your crappy code. That's a joke. I'll slow down. So that's new. That's the incumbent technology. Okay? Nod your head if you understand. Woo, some of you. Okay, so here's my speculation. This might be a bold claim, but I think that mobile-first indexing is really cloud-first indexing, URL not required. I think that Google's going to be indexing content that doesn't need a URL. We're already seeing that with app indexing. Apps have URIs, but we're going to see more and more stuff without URLs. Things like PWAs that use lots of JavaScript, things like actions. So we'll go through those. So I talked about the connected home. Remember, we're generating lots and lots of data with these things all the time. They're tracking us. This thing might be listening to us all the time because you gave it permission to when you signed their terms of agreement. The watches, there are all these surfaces, Google's calling them surfaces, that it wants to engage with you in a data AI kind of way. And so when it makes you sign into your user account with all of these, then it ensures that at least one of them is near you, tracking you, to create an AI situation where it knows a lot about you. And then if you look at your Google Cloud, you can actually search. So remember, they got rid of what not Google Docs. They got rid of their previous limited cloud hosting, and now there's Search My Cloud option, which they're not really marketing very much. But you can search everything that Google knows about you, including what apps you have, where you went, what time, how fast you were moving, when you went there, what time you took all the pictures on your phone. They know a lot about you. And they want to be an AI company. Google doesn't want to be a mobile company. They want to be an AI company because that's how they get you the best search results, is they learn exactly about you, and then they know when you're searching for something by AI, what you've liked before, you probably will like something similar again. And then, so all the things are getting linked up. We can even view things in Cardboard. We can listen to music in the app of our choice directly from a search result. We can share it. And they're putting schema on things. And schema is a very simple API. It makes it easier for different bodies to ingest the data and understand it in an organized way. And that, if you do a a search on music, and then you click on things, you're drilling down and getting more information, but you'll notice it's not changing the search query, it's not changing the URL. So even though my original search was drumming song, if I click in the Florence and Machine songs, it does this expander thing that just gives me all the songs, not just the song I searched for, but here are all the songs that are related to that song because they're by the same artist, right? So that's AI, or at least that's knowledge graph kind of acting like AI. Okay, so URL not required. Where are we seeing this already? Well, restaurant searches, the video results when it's shown directly in the SERP, that might have a URL that it goes to, but it doesn't have to have the URL to play the video. Things like in your Google Now setup, you can see all the different shows and click that, follow special interests. You're setting things up just for you without URLs. When you share things, this is a knowledge graph. Knowledge graph results really don't have URLs. It just shows up in the search, right? How would you go to a knowledge graph? You would have to do the search, or you would do this share button, which creates something Google's calling a dynamic URL. It overlays a URL where there wasn't one just to allow you to share it. And then the cow sounds. They're indexing sounds. Why would they do that? Because Google Home needs to understand sounds. So everyone pull out your phone and search for cow sound, and then play it. Please, be silly with me. I'm waiting. You can search for other animal sounds if you prefer. Yay, someone found it. Okay, the point of that, though, is that there's no URL there. There's not like there's not a website that we go to find the cow sound. The only way to surface the cow sound or any of these sounds is to search for it. Okay? It's my favorite part of every presentation. So there's not a URL for this to rank. It just ranks magically. Okay, so that's incumbent, right? These things are ranking. They're ranking in position 0. They have no URL, or they don't need the URL, even if they have one. So, so another way that Google is getting the stuff that it's indexing and ranking really well is feeds and XML. Why? Because these are ways to ingest the data without having to crawl. Crawling is too slow with all the data. They need faster ways to take in all the information. So feeds and XML are a great way to go. And a lot of the position 0 stuff is coming in as a feed. If you're worried about all the stuff that Google's cramming up at the top of a search result, especially mobile search results, it's coming in through XML feeds or other kinds of feeds. So if you have data that they're not doing something like this for, put it in a feed and see if you can send it directly to Google. Find a way to reach out to them. So movie times, shopping, sports schedules, weather, conversion rates, all that's just feeds. And they have agreements with the companies that provide the feed, and they list them right below. But this isn't acquired by crawling. It's just ingesting a feed, okay? Okay, JSON and JSON LD. Does everyone know what the LD in JSON LD stands for? No. Oh, some of you, good. So JSON, the LD stands for link data. Or linked data, excuse me, not linked data. It's not about links. It's about understanding and relationships, right? So it's kind of like schema. And you can put JSON and JSON LD in a lot of places, and Google is encouraging people to put the JSON and the JSON LD in a whole lot of places. You can put it in the HTML. We kind of have done that for a while. App association files are basically JSON LD. PWA service workers, which we'll talk about in a minute, basically JSON LD. And data sets, you can now mark up with JSON LD. Wait, what? Yeah. So data sets or databases, you can mark up with JSON LD so that Google can understand them. Even if you don't have a website, Google can understand your database if you mark it up properly. And so they quietly launched this additional schema feature where you can add schema and JSON LD to any database that you've got. Why would you want to do that? So that you don't have to have a website. Or so that Google can just get the data without having to crawl your website. They haven't said that outright, but it seems like it might be true. And that's the new way, right? Faster, no crawling. PWAs. PWAs stand for Progressive Web Apps. Emily talked about them in the session this morning, but web app implies that there's like a JavaScript-y kind of app-like experience, and they're really cool. They allow you to have an icon, they allow you to push notification, they allow you to work offline without having to build an app. You're just modifying your existing website. I like to explain them as kind of like a browser plugin that restyles the browser. So they leverage the browser code, but they say, look like this and hold your hand like that, and then show our content and cache it properly. And so PWAs are really getting traction fast because users love them, and they're not that hard to take an existing website and modify it into a PWA. The two components of a PWA that make it a PWA, other than you have to start with HTTPS, but then you have to have a service worker and an app manifest. The app manifest is super easy. There's a wizard online that'll allow you to make one in 5 minutes. It just says, here's our logo, here's our app name, here are our colors. The service worker is more complicated. It kind of is Emily called it the air traffic controller of the PWA, and I like that analogy because it says, okay, you come here, you wait, you come here, you wait. And it makes sure that it's as fast of an experience as possible for the user. And it does that by caching some of the information on the phone locally and then leaving some on the server for later and pre-caching some of the stuff. And it knows exactly how to choreograph this fancy ballet. But the service worker, basically, when it's caching stuff on your phone, it's caching it in something called index.db. What does that mean? It's a database. It's an index. These are two words we've heard before today, right? So it's allowing you to create your own local index of the content. And I'll tell you that I went to a Google conference and talked to someone who wasn't media trained. And I was like, okay, but so PWAs, Google likes them. How do they crawl them? Do they crawl the service worker? And he said, no, we crawl the API to the service worker. Great. So that's kind of what they look like. And it's telling you what is cacheable. What's important here is that you're marking up your content, but you're only marking up the cacheable stuff, and the cacheable stuff is what's also important for indexing, the text and the images. That's what Google wants. So it allows Google to eschew the rest of the code, the design, the JavaScript, the stuff it doesn't want, and it just gets the meaty stuff, right, for indexing, to know when to rank you without having to crawl all the rest of the code. So that's pretty neat. And Google's turning everything they have into a sneaky little PWA. So this is the food stuff that I was talking about earlier. This is from Google Now. If you're not playing around in Google Now instead of just regular Google, check out Google Now. It's an app that you can download. It's called something else on iOS, but if you have an Android phone, it's called Google Now. You can also just swipe all the way left and get to it. When you're looking for food in there, it'll say, do you want to add this to your home screen? Sure. And then it launches directly from an icon that you've saved to your desktop. And all it's doing is it's web. It's not really an app, because it loads. When you download it, it's done downloading in just a second, because all it's downloading is the service worker and the app manifest. So that's what it looks like. When you download it, it looks like a regular old app. So that's PWAs. They're doing it all over the place. Sports, driving directions, Google Translate, all of these things, they're spinning off into little PWAs that you can download to your phone. That's new. That's better in Google's mind because it's easier to crawl. Or they don't have to crawl, whichever you choose. All right, Google hosting. This is another one. They don't want to crawl it. They'd rather just host it. Why? Because then they have the engagement data. Then they know what's really important to users because they can see what's being requested through the log files that they're hosting. Google's making a big push through this, through stuff like Firebase, Google Apps for Business, all that stuff that's letting you build stuff in Google's cloud makes it easier for them to understand what's great about your stuff and what people want. AMP also includes Google hosting. That's how the CDN is so fast. It's all straight from Google. Google Answers, they're caching all of this stuff so that they can serve it directly to you without relying on anyone else's web servers. And all of their utilities. They host those, they rank them in position 0. Anything that Google hosts, it likes to rank in position 0 because it can know immediately whether it's live and working and getting good interaction. Things like events, YouTube, all of these stuff, they already have cached, so they know they can rank at number 1 without risking a bad interaction when someone clicks. Google Actions. So who knows what a Google Action is? Wow. Okay. Google Actions are super cool. This is what I was referencing with chatbots earlier. They basically, Google Actions, Google Assistant, Google Home, they're all kind of the same thing. They've done a horrible job branding this. But if you talk to your phone and you trigger Google with like, OK Google, if you say that loud enough, it'll trigger the phone, and then you can interact with it, ask it questions, stuff like that. Okay, and it responds. It can also pull in your emails, your schedule, a bunch of all the stuff that's connected to your Google account. And when you create a Google Action, the plan for the action is to interact with Google Assistant, whether it be on a phone, whether it be on Google Home, whichever, or whether it be, if it's on a phone, then it's going to be through visual stuff and clicking. If it's Google Assistant, then it's going to be through voice. So what you have to have for this to work, to program a Google Action, is both. You have to have input methods that are voice only, and you have to have input methods that work with clicks. And they have to mirror each other. Every step has to be the same, and then you can submit it as a Google Action, and it does stuff that an app could do or that a website could do. But if you build the action/chatbot, which is what it really is, you don't have to have a website or an app, and these things are ranking in position 1. So this is more about Google Assistant. Google Assistant's learning things and giving you suggestions about things, and it's actually, when it shows you this and you click on the next thing, it's using that to feed the AI so it knows what you're going to want next the next time you do a similar search. So when you search for today's weather in Brighton, it's going to say, here's the weather in Brighton. Do you want to see tomorrow's forecast? Do you want to see the weekend forecast? If you always serve the weekend forecast, it'll probably start automatically showing you the weekend forecast, or maybe showing everyone the weekend forecast if that's what everyone clicks on. But they're aggregating this data. What about the weekend over there? And that's just for you. They're also pulling this AI-informed data when you bounce over there. You see these new injections. They want to know, OK, if that wasn't what you want, what did you really want when you searched for that thing? They're using that to feed the machine learning. And these people also asked, again, if you didn't find what you wanted on that result, or if this isn't quite the result that you wanted, what did you really want when you searched for that? Trying to feed the AI. So this is a Google Action. Do you guys know OpenTable? Yeah? It's a restaurant reservation app / website, but now also Google Action. But they don't have to have the app or the website for it to work. So you can search for make a reservation for Root Down, which is a restaurant. Okay, and it shows you the action with the logo. Shows you the address. It says what day, and it suggests the day that it thinks it wants. It suggests a time, suggests how many people it thinks you want, but you can change these things. Now, if you were doing this with a Google Home or a Google Assistant that you were interacting with in voice, it would ask you the same questions in the same order. It's trying to solicit exactly what it wants so that it can send it to a database to actually book the reservation for you. So when you fill in all those things and hit continue, it says, OK, we made you the reservation. Since you're logged in, we know your email address. We're going to email you a confirmation. It even knows enough to not let me book the same reservation twice. It says, no, 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 you already booked that. Don't do it. We're not going to book you a second reservation for the same time. So that's a Google Action. So the point of all this is, from an SEO perspective, mobile-first indexing may be a game changer. It may change your job in a very fundamental way. And it may be that cloud-first programming or cloud-first development or cloud-first anything is the new SEO, right? This may change what we do for our jobs as SEOs because it's incumbent technology. These are the animals in the presentation.
This was originally recorded at a Brighton SEO conference. If you want to listen to more episodes or find out about the conference itself, you can do at brightonseo.com.